Hello and welcome to this edition of Consciousness Raising Online. Okay, got to get the music on. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I know you're trying to figure out what is the world is this title, Black People Don't Want No White God. I'm going to explain that, and I'm going to take you on a journey that's going to go back thousands and thousands of years. And I've been kind of excited about bringing this presentation because essentially it's deep, okay? The first thing I want to do, and I know you're looking at the still picture of me. I'm going to put myself in live in a little while, but I wanted to get rolling like this. Black people don't want no white God. I'm not making that up. I ran across this, and it's part of this whole journey I'm doing here. And just in case you can't see this up close, I'm going to read it to you. Blacks don't want a white God. The American Missionary Association was a non-denominational Christian educational society founded by a network of black and white abolitionists in 1846. They fought for black freedom both before and after the abolition of slavery. In a 1928 edition of their publication, The American Missionary, there's a passage titled, Blacks Don't Want a White God. It reads in part, quote, the colored races of the world are working out a new religion, one that will not come short of the ideals and noble ethical principles of Jesus. When that religion shall have been completely worked out, they will have to find a new name for it other than Christianity. I mean, white man Christianity. If you doubt this, study more closely the youth movements in China, India, Japan, and Africa. This new theology was much like the old theology we can now uncover in the ancient remains of the Egypt, India, or Mesoamerica. It's almost as if things were coming full circle. In ancient times, learned initiates would come to find that the God worshipped by the common people was not to be found on a mountain or in the heavens above, but in the mirror. This was the secret kept in all the ancient temples and mystery schools. Okay? Now, here's the deal. In Africa, there's something called Adam's calendar. Okay? And I'm going to tell you more about that in just a minute. I just want to give you a sample of something. I'm going to come back to this in a minute. Because first, I want to tell you about Mpumalanga. Mpumalanga. And I want to just take a few minutes just to look at some of the beauty of Mpumalanga. It's in South Africa, what we know as South Africa today. Okay? And I want you to look at how beautiful this is. Because I'm getting ready to break down some stuff that's just unbelievable. That right there is like, wow, what is that? But Mpumalanga. And there's one of the cities or towns in Mpumalanga. Okay? So I want you to see that it is not some barren territory. It is part of South Africa. And should be getting to a map in a minute so you can see where it is in relationship to in South Africa. Isn't this beautiful? Beautiful, gorgeous. Now this is part of what I'm going to be talking about with Adam's calendar. And I'll explain why it's called Adam's calendar in a few minutes. There's the entrance to the University of Mpumalanga. In that, I love saying it, Mpumalanga. There's a falls. They have several of them in Mpumalanga. And the idea of what we're talking about here is a part of South Africa over near on the eastern side of South Africa. I lost my calendars here. Okay, I'm going to come back to this because what I want to do is okay. Mpumalanga is known as the place of the rising sun. Here's what I wanted to find. Okay. You see where it is? There's Limpopo, there's Swaziland. Now these strange shapes I'm going to explain in a minute, but I wanted to give you some idea of where we are, what we're talking about here. Because the idea of these places is just amazing. When we talk about it, we're going to talk about it in a minute. But let me go back to explain about Adam's calendar. Okay? I'm going to, just in case you can't see it clearly, I'm going to read you this portion. Adam's calendar. They're asking the question, is it the oldest megalithic site in the world? Adam's calendar, I don't know who's calling me, but they'll just have to call me back. Adam's calendar is controversially suggested to be the oldest man-made structure in the world. Sometimes referred to as African Stonehenge, that's white people naming it that, right? It predates both Stonehenge and the Great Pyramid of Giza by tens of thousands of years. Located in Mpumalanga, South Africa, it is a standing stone circle about 30 meters in diameter and has been estimated by some accounts to be more than 75,000 years old. Various astronomical alignments have been identified at the site, and it is possibly the only example of a completely functional, mostly intact, megalithic stone calendar in the world. Now, actually, I hate calling it Adam's calendar, but again, this is named by Europeans. And of course, by saying Adam's calendar, they're taking it way back to, in their minds, the time of Adam and Eve. But we're talking about at least 75,000 years ago. But you're going to see in a few minutes, it's actually older than that. Scattered throughout the mountains of South Africa are thousands of stone circle ruins. The first estimates of the number of these ruins was made in 1891 by English explorer Theodore Bent. He estimated there were about 4,000 of these in this area of the world. By 1974, the estimate had risen to 20,000. Today, researcher and authority on the subject, Michael Tellinger, has estimated the number of ancient stone ruins to be 100,000 or possibly much higher. Some of these stone circles have no doors or entrances, while most are connected by an expansive network of channels that are often misinterpreted as roads by some historians. The connected grid of circular ruins are immersed in a seemingly never-ending expanse of ancient agricultural terraces surrounding the structures. Agricultural terraces means farms, right? Adam's calendar is considered to be the most famous among these ruins. I hate that they call them ruins too. But now here's what I wanted to get to even more is okay, let's go back to the calendar. Okay, I wanted to see where it is. Now, here's an example of what we're talking about here. Okay? Wow. They can only be seen up in some cases from above. Let me see if I can make it stop for a minute. Okay. Oh, no, it won't stop. Hey, stop here. Stop. Okay. Now we're getting there. Oh, don't do that. Okay, I'm trying to make it stop here. Okay. Now, here's the deal. Okay. Known by African elders as the birthplace of the sun, the site was first brought to public attention in 2003 by South African pilot Johann Hein. Johann Hein. South African means he's a European. Okay? He had been flying over the mountains of Mpumalanga, South Africa, for over 20 years and began photographing them, and took an interest in the thousands of strange circular stone objects scattered throughout the region, and then he began photographing them. In consulting experts on their origins, he was informed that they were the remains of cattle kraal, livestock enclosure left by the Bantu people when they migrated from the north around the 14th century. Now, let me show you what they're talking about here. All right, there's one of these structures, right? Here's some of them from above, what he was seeing when he would fly. Okay? Now, this here, this is a cattle. Stop that. I don't want you to stop there. This is a cattle kraal, as they call it. Trying to get it to stop there for a second. Okay. That's a cattle kraal that the Bantu have. Okay? So that's not what those are. Those structures that we just saw, they're unlike any of the Bantu cattle kraal designs, which are usually made of thorny shrubs with a single entrance and exit for the cattle. Okay? There are also several thousands of them spread over tens of thousands of miles. Now, in air crash, let me move it ahead here a little bit. Okay, let's see if we can get it to stop there. Okay. Now, an air crash involving one of his crew brought Johann to discover the mysterious monolithic circle by accident. En route to find one of his pilots who crashed his plane on the edge of the cliff, Johann noticed an arrangement of large stones sticking out of the ground next to the crash site. While rescuing the injured pilot down the side of the cliff, Johann walked over to the monoliths and realized they were aligned to the cardinal points, north, south, east, and west, as well as the equinoxes and solstice, the summer and winter solstice and the equinoxes. There were at least 3 monoliths aligned towards the sunrise, but on the west side of the aligned monoliths, there was a strange hole in the ground. After weeks and months of measuring and making observations, Johann suspected it was a stone calendar. The site was aptly named Adam's calendar because the stones are placed to track the movement of the sun, which casts shadows on the rock. Let me see if I can get back to that. I want you to see this. Let's see. Yeah, I think this is it here. Okay. All right. It still works perfectly as a calendar today. Is this something? By following the shadow of the setting sun, which is cast by the taller central monolith onto the flat stone beside it. This remarkable calendar was originally a large circular stone structure resembling Stonehenge, and in the center of the circle are 2 upright stones which are said to have been carved. Its original shape is still clearly visible from satellite images, and the stones are all dolomite, weighing up to 5 tons each, and are said to have been transported from a distant site. I'm trying to read it in such a way that you can get it. Now, there's a shot from above. Okay, here's some another shots of them. Okay. Still some more. So I want to give you an idea of what these sites are like. Okay, now it should be noted that the area surrounding Adam's calendar is extremely rich in gold. Several mining shafts have been reported in the area, with one of the richest working mines in the world today being the Sheba gold mine located in Mpumalanga. Not only did the rich gold reefs attract attention in the 1880s, but the early evidence of historic civilizations mining for minerals were described in writings by the early Europeans. They go through this whole thing explaining how they were able to figure out the age of this, having to do with Orion and the rotation of the Earth, etc., etc. But in any case, they determined that the 3 stones in the calendar were aligned with these 3 stars in the Orion, and it's possible to estimate the time when the 3 stones were in alignment. And according to this guy Tellinger, a calculation done by astronomer Bill Hollenbach, based on the rise of Orion, suggested an age of the site of at least 75,000 years. A further calculation done in June of 2009 suggested an age of at least 160,000 years. Oh, man. Now, here's the deal. Now, if that's not mind-blowing enough, just more recently, let's see. Now, here's one of these breakdowns that they did. Adam's calendar. Look at what it says. Let me. If you can't bring it up close, it says Adam's calendar, 11,500 BC. Some astronomical sight lines. And they show the winter solstice sunrise and the summer solstice sunrise, Orion's belt rising horizontally, Orion's belt setting vertically, the west, there's Sirius rising sight line. This is amazing because what you have to understand is how thousands of years ago, when they like to say that it was only heathens or ape people or whatever they be talking about, there was an advanced civilization in Mpumalanga, the place of the rising sun. So understand, and this is in the portion of Africa, what they call South Africa. You see this? There's no question. There's Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Botswana, okay? And there's Mpumalanga. So it's no question that this is deep in the heart of Africa. And wasn't no white people there at all. But now here's what I want you to understand. This is later information. In South Africa, about 150 kilometers west of Port Maputo, Mozambique, and you can see Maputo there on the bottom of Mozambique, a giant stone city has been discovered. It became possible to determine the age of the site by measuring the erosion rate of the dolerite. Now, not to be confused with the dolomite, which I mentioned earlier, but also there's dolerite. The 1,500 square kilometer metropolis was believed to have been built between 160,000 and 200,000 years ago. The ruins consist of huge stone circles, most of which are buried in the sand and can be seen only from the air or with the help of satellite imagery. The ancient town is thought to be part of a larger network of 10,000 square kilometers. The organized nature of this ancient community and a road network connecting it to the terraced agriculture suggests that the metropolis was home to a highly advanced civilization. The geology of the site is quite interesting too because of the numerous gold mines located in the area. Now, according to researchers, this ancient civilization could have practiced gold mining. Well, we know that they did because of all the gold artwork and artifacts that have come out of that entire southern area of Africa. Okay? But now here's the thing. In 2007, Michael Tellinger, researcher and writer passionate about human origins, and Johann Hein, a local fireman and pilot, decided to explore the site. Later, the results of their research inspired Tellinger to write a book entitled Temples of the African Gods. Temples of the African Gods. According to Tellinger, the evidence they found suggests a completely different perspective on the history of humankind. Now, according to the conventional version of human history, the first civilization on Earth was Sumer and emerged in southern Mesopotamia about 6,000 years ago. Now, understand what we're saying, what they're saying here. Now, they said the first civilization on Earth, they put it way up north in Sumer and southern Mesopotamia. You can go look that up, but it's up there in the northern part of Africa. But this raises this question. What if there was another earlier civilization that was then lost in the midst of time? The photographs, artifacts, and evidence accumulated point towards a lost civilization that precedes all others, not by a few hundred years or a few thousand years, but many thousands of years. Tellinger believes that this ancient African metropolis is the oldest structure built by humans on Earth. In fact, he thinks the Sumerians and the Egyptians inherited knowledge from this advanced civilization. Part of that belief is based on this. Let me pull this up for you. Let me pull this up here. Part of that belief is based on the fact they're carvings of the African Ankh. You know, some people like to call it the Egyptian Ankh when they're trying to separate Egypt from Africa. But they found Ankhs on the rocks of this ancient city. So how could there possibly be an image of the Ankh thousands of years before the Egyptian civilization? And this is what he said. He said, these discoveries are so staggering that they will not be easily digested by the mainstream historical and archaeological fraternity, as we have already experienced. It will require a complete paradigm shift in how we view our human history. I laugh because when I started out earlier, I said blacks don't want what? White gods. And it's because we have had our own gods for thousands and thousands of years. And so it's just amazing to me that it's just amazing to me that we have these people who are still unwilling to deal with the reality that we have been here for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years as civilizations. And no matter how they try to get around it, it just is. So I leave you now. You can come back to this recording and go through the information. And hopefully, if you want to research it more yourself, you'll find the information that will lead you to that research right here in this piece that we've done called, what? Black people don't want no white gods. In any case, I want you to be careful, please. We're still in the midst of this pandemic. And, you know, it's crazy. It's crazy. But wear the mask, wash your hands, social distance, and remember, no justice, no peace, no love, KNOW.